Long before the Western world began to view samurai warriors as inherently male, there were female samurai. These female samurai were just as powerful, just as dangerous, and just as deadly as their male counterparts. They were just as effective with the katana, the samurai sword, as the men. Nakano Takeko, who died in battle at the age of 21, was the last female samurai in history. So let's take a look at the brave warrior women samurai and the story of Nakano Takeko. Long before the term samurai was coined, Japanese warriors were highly skilled with swords and spears. Samurai was the name given to the noble class of soldiers in ancient Japan. Its name comes from the ancient Japanese word esaburao, which means to serve. The fact that only 20% of Japan's land was suitable for agriculture led to land disputes. Warfare was therefore an important part of Japanese culture. The country's major clans often clashed with each other. The samurai were a warrior society, willing to sacrifice their lives to protect what they believed in, no hesitation, no doubt, no confusion, and no fear. They used a variety of weapons to fight, including bows, arrows, and spears. Their most interesting philosophy was to commit suicide after defeat by slitting their stomachs or abdomens with their own swords. These warriors overcame their fear of death with the philosophy of Bushido. In short, the samurai purged themselves of the fear of death and adopted the basic principle of service to the master. They were warriors who lived for honor and would die without blinking an eye if necessary. They were people who were expected to be cultured, to have exemplary behavior, to write poetry when they were not fighting, and many other qualities. Although there is no definitive information about the first female samurai, Empress Jingu, who is believed to have lived between 170 and 269 AD, is considered one of the first female samurai. Female samurai were known as Onna-Bugeisha. They were trained in self-defense and offensive maneuvers in the same way as men. They were trained to use a sword specially designed for women. Due to their shorter stature than men, they used swords called naginata for better balance. They played an important role in winning many battles. For years they fought alongside male samurai, held to the same standards and expected to perform the same tasks. Empress Jingu organized and led a war in Korea in 200 AD. Despite the widespread traditional idea that women came after men and should submit to them and stay at home, exceptions were made for women like Jingu. Considered strong and independent, these women were encouraged to fight alongside male samurai. After Empress Jingu paved the way, many Onna-Bugeisha rose to prominence. They were described as having incredible skill on the battlefield and extremely high intelligence. There were also aspects in which they were more skilled than men. They were much more agile and slimmer than men. This gave them a great advantage over their enemies. In battle, they were skilled in archery, horseback riding, and the use of the naginata, a long traditional samurai sword. In the 1800s, there was unrest between the ruling Tokugawa clan and the imperial court. A group of specialized female warrior units known as the Joshigan was formed, led by a 21-year-old samurai named Nakano Takeko. Takeko was well trained in the use of the naginata, a shorter and lighter version of the traditional weapon. She was also trained in the martial arts, and because her father was a high-ranking official in the imperial court, she received the best training of her life. Born in April 1847, Nakano Takeko was a descendant of the Nakano samurai. She had two siblings, a brother, Toyoki, and a sister, Yuko. She was a highly educated young woman who studied martial arts, Chinese Confucian classics, and calligraphy. She taught martial arts to many young women at the school, including her sister, and worked as an instructor for the last few years of her life. In fact, this young age would be the end of her life. In 1868, a civil war known as the Battle of Aizu broke out. During the Battle of Aizu, Nakano Takeko led an army of female samurai against the emperor's forces. She fought with the naginata, the traditional weapon of the Japanese female samurai. Under her command, the army followed the male samurai into the Battle of Aizu. This army was composed entirely of women, including her mother and sister. Takeko was less fortunate than many samurai of her lineage because she lived in the 19th century. This meant that she had to fight against firearms, whereas these warriors only used the samurai sword. They were not trained to use firearms. During the defense, the all-female battalion faced the firearms of a large contingent of Imperial Japanese troops. The men were astonished to find that the women's unit fighting against them had stopped firing. The Onna-Bugeisha fought bravely. They killed many male warriors in hand-to-hand combat, but unfortunately their enemies began to fight with firearms, and even the skilled Onna-Bugeisha did not survive the battle. As the troop began firing, Takeko was struck fatally in the chest. Bleeding profusely, she called for her sister Yuko. She said she didn't want her enemies to shake her head like a trophy. In fact, Takeko had killed a dozen men before she died with a gun. When Takeko fell in battle, she asked her sister to cut off her head so that her body would not be taken as a prize by the enemy. Her sister fulfilled Takeko's last wish by burying her head in the roots of a pine tree at a nearby shrine. She was only 21 years old when she died, and about 230 samurai who survived the battle committed suicide after their stronghold was captured. Nakano Takeko died on October 16, 1868. A monument was later erected in her honor near the pine tree where Takeko's head was buried. Takeko is considered the last great female samurai warrior. The Battle of Aizu is also considered the last battle of the Onna-Bugeisha. Shortly after the battle, the feudal Japanese military government fell and left the imperial palace. The era of the female samurai came to an end in the 19th century, as did all samurai. Although the Onna-Bugeisha era ended, female warriors continued to exist after Takeko. After 1800, women continued to challenge traditional gender roles and participate in battle. Meanwhile, the rest of the world chose to believe, as they wanted to believe, that samurai warriors were great strong men. They effectively buried the legendary legacy of the Onna-Bugeisha in the pages of history. Thank you for watching this video. Please don't forget to subscribe to the channel and like the video to be notified of similar videos.